Randomly with Ronnie Jr.
So now we got somebody who's no stranger to talking on a microphone and to the cameras. Headkrack, I don't know how to necessarily label you. Dish Nation is one of your nods. Bodega Brovas, one of your nods. The Morning Hustle, and so much else. Like, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. You know, during this quarantine times, I just been finding like random things to keep myself occupied, mostly food. But you know what I'm saying? But I'm having a good time, man. It's just like learning things along the way.
I wanted to talk to you about your creative aspirations. You're basically broadcasting quite a bit of your life all the time, very busy guy. Was this something that came from a very young age? Were you one of the kids who knew you wanted to get into broadcast, or did you find it somewhere else?
You know, I tell people a lot of times, like, my whole life is kind of like Slumdog Millionaire. Like, whereas, like, you find yourself doing a bunch of things as a child and you don't exactly know why, but you know this is going to come in handy at some point. Like, you know, I used to spend a lot of time for some bizarre reason watching Entertainment Tonight as a kid. Like, you know, whereas a lot of kids were watching cartoons or whatever, or, you know, just like, you know, just fun child things. Even very young, I was just always driven to like pop and entertainment culture, and I was watching it. You know what I'm saying? Even like, you know, back in New York when I was growing up, if you didn't have cable, UHF television was your friend. And there used to be like a couple channels on the UHF channels that would show videos all day, but it wasn't MTV. It was just a thing. I can't remember what the channel was and what the network was called, but I would just watch it all day, even though it wasn't like hip hop. I was just like, yo, I want to know about it all. So like I'm watching like rock and roll videos, I'm watching hip hop videos, watching R&B videos. I'm absorbing it all because I feel like at some point I'm going to need to know these things. Don't know why. Was just drawn to it. And then you fast forward later in life, I know who a lot of these people are because I was paying attention from a young age. So it seemed like I was kind of always like, you know, I don't know, like just training for a job that I would have in the future. And I would just randomly notice stuff like, yeah, that's Farrah Fawcett. I don't know why I know this, but it's Farrah Fawcett, you know?
Yeah, to grow up in that time when with that network and MTV, VH1, really all of them, was even for myself, it was the same thing. You knew that there was a connection. Like you would see the people who would talk in between the songs, and it really felt like a dream. It really, really did. And you stuck that with you. How did you insert yourself into radio, and what was the first market that you felt like you sort of started gaining some success and some momentum?
Well, radio came along because, you know, me and a mutual friend of ours, Keno, we grew up in virtually the same neighborhood. Like well, at least graduated high school in the same school district. I'm originally from New York. He's originally from Dallas, but I went to the Colony High. He went to Louisville High, and I would always hear about this guy who, like, yo, he's not from New York like you, but he's very hip hop and da 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 da. Like, yo, y'all would hit it off. And then when we finally met each other, it was like, it's you. Like, we knew who each other were. So he was in a rival group. I was in a different crew. And, you know, we would always see each other within the hip-hop scene. So it came a point in time where there was a new radio station that came in town, you know, called 97.9 The Beat. And we're like, yo, we like the music they play, but they didn't have any DJs. So we're like, yo, let's go to the studio tomorrow and make a tape and turn it in like we already have a show. And this is what the show sounds like. It was me, him, and another guy by the name of Super K. Next thing you know, we get a call about a week and a half later. Hey, we want to meet with you guys, talk to you about giving you guys, like, you know, a show. So we're thinking we're going to do overnights or something like that. They ended up giving us the night show. So it's our very first foray into radio, and we're like doing nights in the number 5 market in the country for radio. And that was the first foray into having a successful radio show, because we came right in, and within like less than a year, we became the number 1 night show in the city. So Dallas was our first successful market, and that was the first radio market that any of us had ever tackled. And then you fast forward 5 years, they start a new morning show. They put me with Rickey Smiley, and next thing you know, we're syndicated, and we're in St. Louis, we're in Augusta, we're in Atlanta, Miami, you know, and all these others in Baltimore, and it just, the list kept rolling on and on. So I've been very blessed to be a part of successful situations my entire entertainment career.
I definitely got to ask you though, first though, New York, Dallas, the different types of lifestyles. Was there a moment that you resisted Dallas, or did Dallas become something that felt right? And was it hard to connect with people? Like you said, you connected with Keynote. I mean, New York is so different, you know?
Right, like, and I didn't resist Dallas as much as Dallas resisted me. You know, in some aspects, because the South is very proud of what they have, and sometimes they can be very apprehensive towards out of towners coming through and doing stuff. Now, granted, like my New Yorkness also made me very unique. And it also gave me a lot of good energy from people because, like, I didn't sound like anybody else. And people, and Dallas is one of those cities where there's a lot of transplants that move from other places. So, yo, when I hear you talk, you remind me of home, whoop-de-whoop. So there was a lot of people I connected with. And there's a lot of people over time I won over. Just because, like, when I met you, like, I didn't know I was going to take you, but, you cool. So, it's just a matter of just being there long enough for people to really get to know you and, and understand that, I'm not some elitist New Yorker, coming in trying to take over. Like, I'm a person who has a story to tell just like yours. And, we're going through this life experience together. Let's figure it out. You know what I mean? So culturally, there was also some differences too, because there was things like, in New York, there's mad Puerto Ricans. In Texas, there's mad Mexicans. So, like, there's certain things, that
I don't even think in Texas they say mad as much. I'm just saying.
Nah, not at all. Nah, like, they got their own slang and everything. So it's just a matter of, and just even the racial breakdowns, because, like, when you go in, like, certain cities like New York, Chicago, they're not black people, white people, Mexican people. They're like Black people, Nigerian people, Jamaican people, Irish people, Italian people, Dominicans. It breaks all the way down, and it seems like a lot of times in Texas is like you're like one of 5 things.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that is important here, and just going off another radio, well, beyond radio actress now, but like hearing Lala Vasquez's story, being a girl from Brooklyn, but then coming to Atlanta radio. And I think I recently just watched one of her, like an unsung, what would be called, what would TV ones, the documentary.
Yeah.
And it's weird because these are the things that could like make us quieter or feel like we can't succeed in a different market. But these are the things that become special. Like she in Atlanta radio became a special thing because she did have that Brooklyn Puerto Rican vibe. Same thing I'm assuming you had. Oh, and going off the note of Keynote, yes, Keynote was somebody I met for Fuse TV. It was a project that happened in 2005. And to know Keynote as a hip hop kid for sure is a thing because I mean, I won't say the name of it, one of his children, but like hip hop is influenced through his DNA for sure. You guys started,
for real.
Huh?
No, I said for real. Like, like he's
I was about to say it's highly respectable, but I also don't want to say it. But you guys, what point was the music? So was the music as you're doing the radio? Is it kind of hand in hand? Does it work for each other?
We were like, always doing hip hop off the grid, amongst ourselves, because that was like what brought us together. The fact that like he was a kid that rapped at other high school, and so like that was always a part of like I guess what made us, like. We both use music as coping and healing mechanisms for whatever was going on in our life. So, like, we always were writing. Even when I was in middle school, I was always, like, writing raps, freestyling at the lunch table, on the bus, or whatever. So, and same thing with Key. So, when we got on the radio, we didn't necessarily use it as a platform to push our music. We was just using it as a platform to let the city know, like, yo, there's dope people in the city being dope. And we were like, we had the opportunity to play a lot of people's music. And, we got to just come on the radio and talk crazy. And, like, we didn't like every artist. We was very vocal about certain things, like, I think some people maybe liked or hated us for it because, like, we were brutally honest at a time. Not everybody was being brutally honest. This is like pre-Breakfast Club. This is like after the Star and Buck Wild generation of radio, but no one in the South had really heard nothing like that yet. We would shoot a record and just turn it off in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? Like we were wilding, things that most program directors probably wouldn't even let you do at this point in time. But we had a guy who hired us who was just such a visionary. He's like, yo, you come on the radio every day, you be you. You don't gotta love everything because that's what makes you real. Like, there's people who probably love what you're playing right now. There's people who probably hate what you're playing right now, but just find the balance in what you do to where like you're not like beating up someone's favorite thing all the time, but you're representing that percentage of people who are not rocking with everything that's going on, because there's some of that too.
Yeah, and you guys had a big, I would say not hurdle, but like you're a newer station going up against like the big, Dallas radio station, the market. That's not easy. So the fact that you guys combine friendship with the music, with just enjoying like the radio program is probably why it worked. Why the heck is it called Bodega Brovas though? Where did that come from?
So, we were trying to think of like what to call our crew collectively. Cause like, I had my own thing going on. Key had his own thing going on. My man Travi had his own thing going on. And we're like, musically we kind of like a bodega, because like, you go to a bodega, you can buy like a sandwich, cigarettes, a gun, a little bit of everything. Right. And like, so musically we kind of encompass all those things. We're not necessarily 1,000% a party group. We're not a political group, 100%. We're not a, just a rapidy rap group. We kind of encompass all things. So kind of like musically, you walk into the bodega and you walk out with a little bit of everything. So we kind of super serve the community the same way a bodega would. You can get a little bit of everything from there.
Especially at 345. Yes, indeed. I know many of it. I grew up in SoCal, but I spent a lot of time, 6 years collectively in New York, both Harlem and Bushwick. So I've liked what you guys have done, because ever since the moment I worked with Keynote on the Fuse TV project, we had a synergy because I was working radio at the moment, and then he was telling me about this Dallas station. So for me, it was really interesting to see your career flourish, hearing, reading the all access trades of, Headkrack is on this Rickey Smiley morning show. Like, it was a real cool thing for me to see, because it wasn't like I didn't know who this person was. I had already been following, of course, Keynote's career, and then yours as well. And also a big shout out to Keynote, because he did go with a really fun moniker at one point. I don't know if he still does it. Hispanic from Another Planet was his vibe. So kudos to that king.
To this day, man. And I think that's what really makes him special, man. Because like mentally, Keynote is from another planet, and that's like the dopest, like one of the dopest things. And I'm so glad he stuck with it and like really made that, part of who he is.
What is that transition like for you, though, when you get to like new eyeballs, working with Rickey Smiley, and that kind of transitioning to Dish Nation? Is there compromises in the way you broadcast, or was it just like a good stage for, your age and where you were going directionally?
I mean, stylistically, I've always been able to, kind of be like water as it represents to what I'm doing new. So the dynamic with the night show that me, Super K, and Keynote did, I was kind of like the straight guy on the show, and Keynote and Super K were kind of like the wild, crazy ones. On Rickey's show, Rickey's like the wild, crazy one. I'm not necessarily the voice of reason either. So I kind of had to turn into like the Lee Harvey Oswald and just like be able to snipe from the roof and get my jokes off that way. You know what I mean? Like, so that's who I needed to be for that show. I needed to be the entertainment, the hip hop guy, the guy who knows about the new sneakers that's coming out. But that's also who I am anyway. But that's not what I had to do on the previous show. So you just kind of got to figure out with this new machine, what part do you play? Are you a screw? Are you a bolt? Are you a lug nut? Are you a gear? So no matter what I do, I just fall in. And as it relates to Dish Nation, you take radio from being a one-dimensional medium where it's voice, now it's voice and how you look. And at the time, I'm on Dish Nation. There wasn't so many people with dreads on TV doing entertainment news, from the very beginning. So, I had to make sure my hair was always on point, and I always looked the part and represented, because there was a lot of people who identified with me. It's like, wow, there's somebody on TV that looked like me. And, and it was cool because Dish Nation never really told me to hold back or do anything different than what I was doing. I got a chance to go in there every day and be me. And that was one of the things I really love about doing the show. So it's always been fun. They're like, yo, go for it. Give us more of your opinion.
And Dish has had different incarnations, because I remember as a radio person, I would watch it and they'd see different hosts across the board. And you're one who has stuck the test of time, and pretty much, that voice on Dish Nation is very important. I want to ask you quickly, as we get out of the Rickey Smiley experience, which was fantastic, but also to your new show, was there something you could take along as far as a big lesson of that experience, and for how long were you on that show?
I was on the Rickey Smiley morning show, and I always lose track of time as it relates to how long I was doing it. But I feel like I heard somebody say something like maybe 11 years, maybe 12 years. It just, morning radio makes time go by so fast. It's all a blur. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
it just went by so blindingly fast, like I truly lost count. When someone told me how long I was actually working for the company, I was like, there's no way that could possibly be true. But I started radio on a very even year, and being aware of what year it is, I'm like, yeah, it has been that long. Oh my God. Like, where did all the time go? So, I mean, the biggest takeaway is, you know, the only way you can ever do something as long as I've been doing it is you have to truly love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because getting up at the time that you have to get up in the morning to do morning radio, it is not the most pleasant thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, it is tough to do. And if your love and your passion ain't there, you will burn out fast and you won't be able to really do it for the long haul. And like, you know, and also too, like, you know, even with this business, like, if your intentions aren't right and you don't check your ego at the door and just, you know, keep all your bridges intact, it is a hard road to walk down for the long run. Because I've seen some people, like, you know, get to a certain point and just like think they're on top of the mountain and just talk to people crazy. And like, you know, I keep my energy consistent. You know, whether I'm the janitor or the person who is running the building, I keep my energy consistent because you never know what's going to happen. And people don't forget nothing. You know, people, an unreturned phone call, a weird handshake, a weird vibe. You know, people don't forget anything, man. So you know, if I ain't learned nothing in this business, just be like, hey, man, be the same person who walked in the door Tuesday as you were on Monday.
Well, no, and on the flip side, they remember the good stuff. Like, there's those little keys that, you know, like, you know, when you use somebody's first name in the sentence, you know, it's valuable. When you look them in the eye, it's like, there's little things you could do to show that, like, I'm here professionally, because it is such a fun career. People forget all the business. I wanted to just note, like, what you're saying. People don't realize if you get hired as a midday radio host, yes, you're going to have long days because there's a lot to do these days, you know, with the broadcast, social media. But when you do mornings, and I've only done it twice, I did it with Rickey's in Los Angeles, and then I did my own morning show in Arizona. And there's just this thing that, like, I thought in my head, to be honest with you, that it would be you wake up at 3:34, and then you rock out till about noon. But there's just, no matter what you do, noon turns into 2 turns into I need lunch or breakfast. It's a really wild thing. And so to maintain it for all these years is pretty crazy. Headkrack, I wanted to ask you, what is that experience like where, you know, because you've done it for a long time, your confidence is intact, you're like, okay, I'm ready to, you know, to reshift the morning hustle? Is that a you thing, or was that like the right timing?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, like, timing wise, you know, I felt I was ready to do my own morning show after I was done doing the night show. Like, you know, even after like being on mornings for like, you know, a few weeks, I just needed to know what it felt like to wake up that early in the morning. And then also too, I came from the grind of having to work 6 days a week doing nights, which looking back on it is like, how the hell was I doing that? Who was, you know, but you want to do it so bad because you love what you do. It barely feels like work. But then when you think about it, it's like, yo, I was only getting 1 day to myself. So now when you do mornings, it's very attractive because you get off at 10 a.m. on a Friday, and it's like, yo, I got Friday and Saturday and Sunday to myself. So it was like really like a definite blessing. Cause like my whole thing is like, I had it wrapped around in my head like, yo, I'm going to go to New York every weekend now that I have all this time. And next thing you know, like you said, when you get off, it's like, yo, you get off at 10, now it's 12. You blink twice, now it's 4 p.m., and you have no time to yourself. So, but, you know, once I got the hang of waking up that early, I felt like I was eventually ready to lead my own thing. But, you know, all things in due time, because it wasn't like I was rocking back and forth like, I want my own show. I can't do this anymore. It was never... Yeah, it was never that. I was going along for the ride, but in a perfect world, I wanted to do a morning show with the people I came into radio with. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to do a show with Keno. I wanted to do a show with Super K, bring a couple other people in. But, you know, sometimes in a corporate dynamic, they will be like, here's all the chess pieces we have on the board. We're going to take this person from this market and put them with that person from that market. So building up to the morning hustle, we interviewed and tried a lot of people, and there was already a thing that they were kind of building in DC with Angie Ange, L'Oreal, another gentleman by the name of On Air Jordan. And I tried them out, and we vibed. We super vibed well. And so then we let's add one more person from the comedy world. Then we brought in Billy Sorrell, and then we started what is now known as the Morning Hustle. the syndicated version. So we was doing a weekend show at first just to kind of get a running start, build the vibe, build the chemistry. And then by the time, like, I think we was starting a weekend show. I think we started doing it like March. And by the time like May, maybe even July rolled around, we kind of knew what it was about to be. And all right, cool. This is the squad. And then in January 6th, we launched the show. And, we had a running start because like I was flying to DC on weekends, or they was flying to Atlanta, and we were like, working on just being in the room together and vibing, and we all get along, you know what I mean? So, here we are, and we're rocking out, man, and we're having a good time, and like, even though we're doing it under weird circumstances, no one ever could have seen the coronavirus thing happening. But I think when we look back years from now, the year we started our show, like, we thought they was about to pull the truck up to the house and all these things were going to be perfect and like we had to work for it. But I would rather have somewhat of a story than not have a story to tell. Like, this makes it interesting.
Yeah. And I think, looking back, this is like the very, like, perseverance. This is actually perseverance. My question to you is, as you've done it for so long, do you get a sense where you always have to be like taking yourself to that 6th busy day, or have you learned, because you've had such a long career now and have like really built it, are you able to slow down? Are you able to kind of turn things down and say, not really turn things down career wise, but take a moment? Has that been something that you've changed as you get older?
That is the hardest thing for me, is to shut my brain off. I literally work and work and work. And even if it's not just on radio stuff, I just continually do things until my brain shuts down and I fall asleep. Even on vacation, I'm thinking about working on something. It's not like, because like the radio part of my brain, because I'm working on the show off and on, like if I think of something, I'll write it down or whatever. I'm working on the show off and on all day, but not obsessively as some people, because I know some people who literally, like, when they get off, they're like, literally reading newspapers and stuff and just doing all types of weird things. No, I go out and live life and let life build the show for me. And if I happen to see stories, I'll write it down and figure out how we can apply that to what we're doing. So there's that. But then there's the Dish Nation component of what I do. And I have like maybe a 30 to 45 minute window after radio before we got to get ready to start taping Dish Nation. So we do that all the way to like 2 p.m., sometimes 2:30 on a long day. And then by the time I'm done with that, my kids are getting off from school, back when school was a thing, which seems like it's been a million years ago now. Because his dad it's the longest summer ever. It feels like, I need these kids.
Or a bad winter. Yeah.
This is so crazy. But, all that, so I don't really have a lot of time to like do recreational things I enjoy. But once again, being that water in a cup, I just figure out how to balance everything out as the time presents itself. Like, even to do this interview, I took like a nap, which I never get to do. You know what I mean? But like I carved out the time to take a nap to make it happen and get it popping, because I wanted to be sharp. It's my first time meeting you. I was like, I gotta come through for the homie Ronnie. But but it is hard, because even when sometimes I'm closing my eyes to like try to go to sleep, my mind is so active.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of things.
When you get into creative space, it's so challenging. Like, I used to use this term, and I've been able to sometimes still be in it because you just get so damn creative. But sometimes I'm able to like cut it down, whether that's meditation or whatever. But I used to say this literally, I need 36 hours in a day, because that's about when I'm done. 24 throws me off. Like 24 means I got to stop all of this, find 8-hour chunk or 6-hour chunk of sleep, 4 hour, and do it. I need 36. Yeah, that always threw me off. Just to wrap you out here, because I do know you got many things to do. What has been a highlight of working with Dish Nation?
The highlight of working with Dish Nation has been working with so many dope people, man. Like, I literally get to work with some of the most beautiful and awesome individuals that I've ever met. And it's like, it's almost like when you have like a dope family and you have a dope foster family too, or a dope step family, because like, my radio family is dope. And then for Dish Nation, it's part of my radio family. And then also people who have come along for the ride, in the very beginning, Porsha wasn't on Dish Nation and now she's on Dish Nation. Porsha Williams is one of my favorite human beings in the actual world. You know what I'm saying? Like, awesome human being. Same thing with the Brat, awesome human being. And then like, Heidi and Frank in LA, they dope too. You know what I'm saying? And every time I go to LA and I get a chance to lock in with them, it's always a good time. And even going back to the other carnations of Dish Nation, like even the Dallas crew, like the Kid Craddock morning show, JC, Kelly, Big Al, Jenna, R.I.P. Kid Craddock, like they were dope, to be around too. So it has really built a new family. And the people that you even don't get to see, the camera people, the people on our side, Sylvia, my man Trevor, our producer Swan, the people who are behind the scenes, the producers, we got to see a lot of people come and go, but a lot of people got to come and still be there. Yeah. So it's been an amazing 8-year ride, and hopefully 8 years from now, we're still talking about I remember when blah, blah, blah didn't have kids, and now they do, and such and such.
No, I track back, I watch it, and I see your work. Again, we've never really met other than through Kino, but I see now Chewy Martinez is on it. That's somebody I worked with years ago.
Super dope homie, and I feel like I know him, and I've never met him in real life.
Oh.
Because every time I go to LA, like when you know how LA trips be, especially when you're coming from New York or the East Coast rather, you feel like you have all this time. I'm a land Friday and I'm a link and lock it, and it just feels you have 96 hours, and you don't, because Sunday's a travel day back and you leave kind of early. And I keep never linking up with Chewy every time I go to LA, but I feel like I've met him 1,000 times because of Dish Nation, because we talk down the line.
And he's been that ambitious. He used to go by a different radio name prior when we worked with him back in 2001, 2002. But that type of grind, that guy has been, 36 hours for sure of his type of work schedule all the time. So then the other day I pop it on and I see he's a part of the show. I'm like, that's a cool vibe. That's the next step. Yeah. So for another 8 years. And it's also really cool. I'll wrap out soon. It's really cool to know that you said these great things about Porsha, because I got to tell you, I watch the Housewives. I watch a lot of the Housewives. I watch the Kenya more. And so it's nice to hear that Porsha's a easy, to work with type of gal also.
Yo, the wildest part about the Real Housewives situation, because I can say this for Porsha, I can say this for Eva, I can say this for when, was my homegirl, Claudia Jordan. Yeah, Claudia Jordan. And I've also met Phaedra. I've been around a few times, and I've been around some of the other Housewives. When I watch that show, I'm like, who are these people?
Oh, on the TV. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't watch the show now, because it's I don't know that version of them. And the crazy thing is, you could tell if somebody's not really who they say they are, because after a certain time, it'll change. Porsha has never changed the entire time I've known her. And I've known her before we were doing Dish Nation together. Going back to one time she was a guest on the Rickey Smiley morning show. Her energy was dope then. And then I would see her in public. She would have the same friendly energy. And then when we started doing Dish Nation, her energy has never changed. Same thing with Eva. Eva's another dope person who, I've snuck in and watched the show just to support my friends. I'm like, yeah, I don't know them. I'll see y'all in real life. I'm out. You know what I mean? So,
your own Dish Nation family.
Yeah, those edits are everything.
I'll let you get some rest now. Last bit of advice, just for people that have maybe hit a roadblock, they've maybe got in the way of their own selves. I've done it a couple times in my career. I feel like I'm on an upswing now. But what is your big bit of advice just for somebody who's kind of hitting a roadblock?
Yo, sometimes you have to close your eyes and listen to your internal voice, and that's going to tell you what direction to go. Sometimes we overthink things, and while you're overthinking, either they're going to close the road or the door or the window or the opportunity is going to shut. Sometimes you just have to go for it and go in with 100% and remove all doubt about the decision that you're making. Literally, if I could have done my entire life over again, I would not have done anything different.
Same. Love it.
You understand? It all happened for a reason.
Support the Morning Hustle. Believe in Bodega, because that's still going on. Of course, Dish Nation. Any other things to plug or any other places we could find you?
Well, yo, man, I got, in addition to Bodega Brothers' work, we got some new music out there. We have a single called The Path Less Traveled by the Bodega Brothers, which is available on iTunes right now. I just dropped a solo video for a song I have called Cali. That's Kally. Be sure you check that out. And, we just going to keep having fun, pumping out content. And I can't wait to get back on the road and, rocking shows again, man. I'm getting a little stir crazy, man. I want to go swim and rap.
We're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it. Thank you for time, Headkrack. I appreciate it. Nice to virtually meet you and keep
Likewise.
Yeah.
God bless you, Ronnie. Thank you for the opportunity, my brother.
Appreciate it.
Peace and love, baby.